Welcome everybody to our second August Me for Matters. I don't think I did a very good job of explaining that we're going fortnightly through August, but thank you those of you that have joined. For those of you who don't know, I'm Mullins and I work at the 7 Stars, and I guess on behalf of Media for All, welcome to today's chat. So Media for All was set up in 2018 by Narendra Patel, and the aim was we've got these 3 pillars, right, which is about how can we help recruit more diversity into the advertising industry, how can we retain people once they're here. We know that people who enter advertising have a very, very different lived experience than those people who don't look like them, and that's a problem, and that's something we need to really challenge. And then I guess once people are here, how do we help people rise? And I guess, you know, MIFA's all about those 3 R's. We like alliteration, and one of the things that we really believe is that in order to drive that change and keep momentum, we wanted to have a real platform for discussion and conversation, right? So even myself, I'm mixed parentage, everyone's got a problem with different phrases or not sure how to say things. So one of the things that we wanted to do is have this real safe space where people can ask questions, they can get things wrong, maybe they can say things that they wouldn't normally be able to say. And I think one of the things that we really believe is having that conversation between us all is a real opportunity to get things on the table and drive that change. And I guess that's why Me for Matters was born. So this week, I think, along with a lot of the people in the UK, I've been really frustrated about the A-level results, and that's not because the Tories have continued their ineptitude in anything that they do. It's really frustrating, but I should get off my political soapbox. It's because, once again, people from more difficult backgrounds, people from Black, Asian, ethnic and minority group backgrounds are being held back and discriminated. And before the U-turn yesterday, not only do people have to already work harder, but then when they do, there's an algorithm that holds us back, which is really, really super frustrating. And hopefully the U-turn and that whole thing will make a bit of a difference. But it was going to be a really, really awful situation. So I'm glad that's being changed. Now, today we're going to be talking about building effective networks. And, you know, we know that groups of people who can come together and support one another can create a real impact. We know that we're stronger when we come strong and we come in numbers, and that there is really strength in doing that. But I myself find that hard. You know, I'm not the best networker in the world. People go, Liam, I'm not sure if I believe that, but it's absolutely true. I find it difficult to go into big rooms of people and get to know people. And it would be good to talk about today a bit about how we go about creating support networks, either within the organisations where we work, within a group of people that might have shared similar experiences across the industry, or it might be networks that are completely different, just friendship groups or whatever. So again, it'd be really good if we could get into a bit of a discussion about that today. I've dropped into the chat a bit of a safeguarding message. I think we've had people here that have said some of the things that get talked about are, you know, can be a bit triggering or can make people feel a bit, you know, I've suffered that or I've experienced that. That's not great. So again, we partner with our brilliant friends down at NABS, and they've got an excellent helpline and an email address that you can get in touch with if you should need to or want to. So I totally encourage people to do that. We have a brilliantly fantastic panel today, and so I know we're going to have a great conversation as soon as I shut up. And we're really lucky to have a special guest, and that's Vivienne Dovi, who works at MediaCom, but she's also an awesome freelancer. Hey, Vivienne. And in the last few months alone, she's been published in Condé Nast Traveller, Stylist. She does loads of work in beauty, travel, and about the issues we're talking about today. And most recently, some brilliant articles in the Metro, which I think we'll touch on a little bit. So I'm going to drop some of those articles in the chat functionality. Again, everything's a functionality
that was
today.
A great intro. Thanks.
Thanks, Vivienne. I tried. And Vivienne's going to kick us off. We also have a newcomer to our panel this week, which is San. And San is a client director, give us a wave, San, over at Dentsu. And she is also a WACL Future Leader, a 2020 winner. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Liam.
Now, nice to see you. We have the brilliantly beardy, I'm very jealous of your beard now. I've started to cultivate one of my own. Alvin, who is a senior business development manager at Super Awesome. So Alvin is super awesome, so it's a good place for you to work. Hi, mate.
Hi, mate. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, thanks. I mean, it's, to be honest, the trick about growing the beard, just don't shave. That's the trick, guys. That's
I don't know about getting tall, and that's never worked for me, but okay. And then last but definitely not least is the wonderful Moses. And Moses is Senior Optimisation Manager over at GroupM. So hi, Moses.
Hi, Liam. How you doing?
Very good, mate. Thank you. So all of those guys are brilliant MIFA role models and mentors, and we have over 50 mentors over at our MIFA website. And what we really encourage anyone to do is have a look at the website, find someone who you think might be, you know, someone that you can learn with, learn from. Mentoring is totally a two-way thing, so everybody gets something out of that transaction, and get in touch with us and we can connect you to somebody. So thanks for joining today. If we've got any questions, blimey, it's a long introduction today, sorry. If you've got any questions as we're going along, pop in the Q&A box, but that's certainly enough from me. So Vivienne, as our brilliant guest, I'm going to start with you this afternoon. And one of your articles, brilliant articles in the Metro, was discussing what Black people need from their workspaces. And one of the questions I just want to start with, what would you say the key things that employers or employees should do in helping with that workplace experience and help with that kind of group of people together?
So putting them together as a network, or you just mean in general? Oh.
Bit of both, I guess.
Okay, in terms of general, I think the main conclusion that came from the article from the people I interviewed was that they just want to feel listened to, which I think is really important. Now, how people want to be listened to would be varied. I'm lucky because MediaCom, we do feel very listened there. There's multiple ways or avenues that we're able to express how we feel, whether that's through the work we do with the employee resource group. So I'm the communications manager for Roots, which is our ethnicity and diversity one as well. So for me, that's how I would say I would naturally want to be listened to. So I feel like it's been fulfilled, luckily. In terms of networking, see, I'm quite different. I'm one of those weirdos who genuinely likes to go to events and talk to people. So my answer might be quite different from other people, but I guess having formal networks are really important, especially for people who may not be as extroverted or as outgoing, as you mentioned, to go into a room for the people that they don't know, or they're not necessarily sure how to connect with senior people or who might be the most beneficial people to know from their company. So I think formal networks are really important. Focusing on sponsorship as well, not just mentorship, is really important for people to break those ceilings. Yeah, I would say those are the main things.
Thanks, Vivienne. And the Roots thing is, I find it really intriguing. How did that come about, and what sort of are the objectives of that as a group of people, or how does that work as a thing?
Yeah, so it started actually in Ogilvy. So it's a WPP initiative. Started off in Ogilvy and then it ended up bringing it out to WPP. And then now all the agencies, or most of them, have started their own type of Roots initiative. So our one started June last year. And the main goal is just to focus on anything that promotes diversity and inclusion in terms of race, because there are other different employee resource groups. So this is what this one particularly focuses on. And so for us, some important things are recruitment. So we do look at the recruitment applications in terms of like what we could do there. Another one is people feeling like they can bring themselves to work. So that's where things like Black History Month and other events will come into play. And we're still working on changing things, of course, during to these unprecedented times. We're trying to change everything up. But those would be what I would say the most important things as of now. And then everything kind of funnels out of that in terms of what our aims are.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And Alvin, I know you've spoken before about some of your experience at Beanos Studios and other places you've been. And what would you say? I guess there's different types of networks, right? There's really formal, there's more informal, there's you and your mates can be a network. What would you say is the benefit of it, and how do you go about getting those sort of things started?
So I guess my key thing is I've never been part of a formal network. I've never, not something like Vivienne, for example, at MediaCom, I've never really been a part of that. And I think I've always, I think arguably now is the best time to increase both. It depends what you want to call formal or informal, and sometimes those lines can blend quite a lot. And sometimes I have people who start off quite formal and then they've actually become really good friends. So I think now is arguably, I think it's probably the best time to do this, to do networking and to increase your network. And I think whether that's offline or online, obviously offline has been slightly affected because there's less events going on. And like Vivienne, I do like going to events and meeting people, because I think at the end of the day, we're all creatures of habit, right? And we all go to work and you tend to see the same people every day, pretty much, even in your friendship groups. If you're being honest, especially these days, you go to the pub, this is all pre-COVID, but you go to the pub, you probably stayed in your circle of friends, right? Probably, right? Especially now where you actually have to stay in your circle of friends. There isn't really much of a choice. So I think now it's argued. So, but what I'm trying to get at is it's really easy to be stuck in your bubble. I think it's really easy just to look in your own company, with actually, in terms of your personal and professional development, it's really important to expand beyond that. So I guess from my perspective, I've always striven to make sure I've had many contacts and friendships outside of my company, even outside my industry. So using things like, I mean, LinkedIn's like the obvious tool to use. There's no reason why you can't reach out to people, you know, and you know, and it could be for numerous reasons. It could be, you know what, I'm a big fan of what you wrote, or I've seen you won this award. I think you're incredible. Just love to connect with you. You know, there's no reason why you can't do that and learn from other people. And I think, you know, when people always say, I've forgotten who said it. Is it Karen? Is it Karen who said who said know your circle? And I think that's in online world as well. When you go through your news feed on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, are you seeing different opinions? And the issues you've had on all the social media platforms is that often you don't. You tend to be stuck in your own echo chamber. Anyway, so I'm waffling. But anyway, I think it's really important to actually sometimes you need to take upon yourself to increase your network and proactively go up and reach out to people and not be nervous about it. And I think that's especially important if you are potentially someone who's joined the media industry and you haven't had that inbuilt network. Maybe you've come from a different background and you haven't had friends or family who've worked, you know, who are working in different levels of a company or agency. So yeah, I think the tools are out there. I mean, I could spend hours talking about it, but I think it's really important for, as individuals, as well as companies, to broaden those networks.
Thanks, Alvin. And you've never emailed me and told me I'm awesome and brilliant and just...
What are you talking about? No, it's because I tell other people how awesome you are. That's the thing. I tell everyone, I'm like, do you know Liam? He's amazing. Yeah. So, you know, you're welcome. No worries.
San, tell me a bit about, I think we had a bit of a chat before we properly started, and there's, you know, based on some of the things Alvin was saying, is about knowing your circle and knowing, you know, creating groups of people internally and externally. What's your experience of that, and how, you know, what are the things you'd say really, really have worked for you?
Yeah, so I moved to the UK about a year back. So I've only been here for about a year. And as someone who's moved around in different markets, networking is something that I've always done, because that's really the only way that you can sort of get a bit of a lay of the land and get to know people. So, I mean, for me, what's really helped is just sort of, you know, either picking up the phone or dropping a simple message on LinkedIn. I think the first question that I've always asked myself when I've moved to a different place, which is what I did about a year back, is what can I learn outside of my day-to-day job, and how can I add value beyond my day job? So you've got to want to be, you know, you've got to be curious, you've got to be, you know, want to be seen and heard, because that's really the only way that you can sort of reach out to people, and actually reach out to people without an agenda, because it doesn't always have to start with, okay, I'd like to talk to you about you know, a certain series of things. It can be something that is quite simple, and it's actually not that hard to sort of actively engage in a dialogue. So don't be shy. It's always good to kind of share ideas. So if you've got some idea, no idea is a stupid idea, and no question is a stupid one. So it's really important to kind of keep it free flowing. And also the other thing that's really helped me is, if I've gotten time with someone, if I've reached out to someone and they've given me time, it's always important to kind of make it count. So be curious to know about their journey, their stories. What is it that they've experienced, particularly as a person of color. And in my case, I mean, obviously we're all from a diverse background, or an ethnic minority background. And for me, as someone who's moved from another part of the world, within the media industry, I've been sort of a minority within a minority. So I also have had to learn a lot of things about the local culture, about you know, lots of things within the media industry that I did not know, because when I moved here, I didn't really know anyone. So it was very important for me to kind of look within my company, as well as particularly outside of my company, and sort of just share and exchange ideas. And I think what I've been able to do is, I've been lucky that quite early on, I became part of the Black Future Leaders Network. So that's really opened a lot of doors for me. I'm sure I've kind of reached out to all you guys at some point with just a simple message. And I think Alvin made a really good point about, you know, just looking up on LinkedIn, if there's an interesting article or a post that you like, just feel free to sort of drop a message and, you know, share what you really think about it. I've also, in fact, Colette was one of the first people that I reached out to, and she was one who linked me up with networks like MIFA. Also, I've always liked to go to events, as Vivienne and Alvin mentioned, go for any trainings, and then, you know, always make it a point to kind of reach out to people that you might have connected with over the trainings. And it's not just important to build those connections, but it's also really important to kind of keep them going and sustain it, because that's where a lot of us kind of lose out. And LinkedIn is always really, really good. Yeah, I mean, just be open to sharing ideas. And I think our industry is about people. So, you know, we need to be interested in people, and you know, everyone's interested in stories. So if you've got a story that is particularly different, everyone will be, or hopefully will be, interested to hear that. I mean, if someone says that I'm not interested in people, or I'm not interested in stories, then they're probably in the wrong profession. So always important to kind of reach out, have a no agenda chat, and just be open to exchanging ideas, because all it takes is a simple act of saying hello.
Thank you, San. I like that. Sometimes the simplest answers are the easiest, and I think you're right. It's getting over a little bit of that fear about, oh, I'm just going to reach out to someone I don't know, or I might just say, I've seen this thing that you wrote and it's brilliant. And I think I definitely don't do that enough. So it's good to just, you know, just do it. Moses, in some of your experience, you know, what groups have you been part of that have kind of really helped you, or what sort of things have you, you know, felt that could be done more through those sorts of groups of people, or like-minded mates and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think, so contrary to everybody else, I'm not really big on a lot of the events. I try to do a lot of my socializing through individuals, or like some of the aforementioned. If you see something interesting, or you meet or hear someone speak, luckily at GroupM, we have a lot of external speakers who may come in on a monthly or bi-monthly basis. So we would have people of interest that I may just send a message to and reach out to and say, oh, I really liked what you discussed in the meeting. Can you share more? Can we have a catch up? Always ask for a catch up. I think one of the good things about our industry is that it's almost like an open door policy. Anybody can ask you for a catch up, and some people will give you 10 to 30 minutes of their time. The only reason why I'm in MIFO is because I was introed by Akama, who is a colleague over at GroupM. And so he connected me with Naren, and that's how that started. And that only started because he came to give a talk, and I spoke to him about some of the work he's doing. So that's how you start to build some of the networks, just by speaking about your experiences, sharing your experiences. If you do read anything interesting, then reaching out to the person who's written it. But also, I think one of the elements of it that is really important is that it just builds camaraderie, and it's also like a safe space for you, because ultimately you want to be able to sense check certain things from someone who you know is similar or has the same background to you. And so knowing that you can do that without being judged, or without being, you know, overly aggressive, if that's a thing, or receiving any microaggressions, which is really important. Having a network is really, really good for that. So whether it be internal with colleagues, or whether it be external through LinkedIn, or just meeting people in person, I've had a lot of positive and diverse experiences.
Thanks, Moses. And, you know, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, where it's like, you know, if you've got a bunch of people who have all got your back, or that you can lean on to ask a question, it might just give you the confidence you need to challenge something, or somebody can challenge on your behalf and stuff like that. And someone reached out to me following that chat and said, look, Liam, this is an experience that I've had. Can you help me? And I think that's exactly what we need to do for each other. And we can make a big change just by speaking out and calling stuff out. Vivienne, we've had a question come in, which again, one of your articles was about, you know, 4 ways to improve your networking game, which I quite like that. I've definitely started to try to implement some of those things within that article. And someone said they're a bit new to LinkedIn, and a bit new to online networking. I suppose everyone is a little bit more than they have been before. What would you say are the key things you've got to nail in that space?
Yeah, I guess the key thing for me, funnily enough, I don't ever plan anything I do on social media, but the feedback I've always received is I'm so passionate about what I do that it's very hard to just miss the work that I do, which I'm really grateful for. So I think for LinkedIn, sometimes not having a plan isn't a bad thing. In fact, if you just start posting and resharing and commenting on the things that you're genuinely passionate about, your brand is kind of evolved as a result of people seeing what you care about. But if you don't necessarily want to start by commenting on people's things, something a mentor once told me that I could do is start resharing things. And at first, just put things like amazing article, great work, just put little things like that. And then after a while, you start adding your comments. And then people will start to naturally see you as some kind of thought leader where you give good enough opinions that they want to stay connected with that. Also connecting with people that you inspire. I always say you miss 100% of shots you don't take. I know I didn't explain that, but it's still the cliche line that I think is very valid here. Reaching out to people and just telling them why you want to reach out. It could be a case of, I saw your work and I really like it, would love to just be able to view your work in the future, anything. And if they say no, they say no. You keep it pushing and you find the next person to go and bug. So for me, yeah, with LinkedIn, I've never really tried with it, if I'm honest, but it just works because I like seeing certain things about certain topics, and then it just kind of, yeah, it works out.
Thanks, Vivienne. And Moses, on, you know, from your perspective, I think what's your view on that? Is what have you found particularly useful?
Sorry, on me. So on LinkedIn, LinkedIn has been, I'm not really big on it, to be honest with you, personally, in terms of my usage on it, but you definitely see the impact when you share stuff, when you comment on stuff, when you just have sessions like these webinars. You notice my biggest spikes has always been when I've been on the webinars, or when I've commented, or when I've shared something. That's when you get the most traction on LinkedIn. So, and I think LinkedIn is really important for any sort of content or kind of sharing of opinion. I think there's so much in terms of branding that is being done on there, but there's also a lot of, you know, knowledge that you can gain from there. So I definitely think it's great, and just being comfortable to be able to do it. If you don't feel like commenting, send a person a private message as well.
Cool. Thank you, mate. We've had someone emailed a question in, and we've also had someone anonymously ask as well on the Q&A. And again, I think that anonymous thing is really useful because people can really say what they feel. And the question is, I'll try and read it a bit verbatim. So is there a temptation to just join a network with people like you, particularly people from ethnic backgrounds? For example, Asian people look to Asian mentors, or black talent look to black groups of people. And is that, my instinct is there's probably a bit of a balance here, right? Between having diverse groups of people that all have the same outcome versus groups of people that can only really have your shared lived experience, and there's probably a benefit on both, maybe. So I wonder whether Alvin, you've got experience of that, and what's the balance, and how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's going to sound a bit harsh, but if you think about the media industry and the fact that BAME talent is a relatively small percentage, you know, of course, you know, if you just look at pure numbers, you know, the people you're going to grow your network, they're potentially not likely to be BAME. If you're looking to, I guess for me, I just think about, I reach out to people. There is a balance. You want obviously people with similar experiences to you, and it's really important, especially if you want to reach out to be mentored, maybe, or you just want to look up to someone and think, oh my God, I love that person, I want to learn from them. On the other hand, I think it's really important to ensure that you are growing your network, because what I guess it's kind of networking. I did this in sociology many moons ago. It's actually not your inner circle that gives you the most value. It's actually the outer circles. So I think it's just really important to make sure that you don't just add people who look like you. I think it's really important to check yourself. And actually, I think it's sometimes just checking yourself and thinking, okay, why am I reaching out to this person? Is it because is it for a business opportunity, which is fair enough? Is it because I've just started a new industry, whatever it may be? But I think it's really important to ask that question and to really be quite honest and frank, because most likely it's the person you're going to add may not look like you. That's not even if you're just BAME. I think if you're non-BAME, that's something to think about as well. It's important, again, not to just add people who look like you, from similar background. I think it's really easy just to do that. I think it's so easy just to add people who look just like you. And that's what I've always made an effort to go, right, am I adding someone because they've engaged with my posts? I do that a lot because I'm like, that's a good indicator that they're interested in being part of my circle. I'm adding them because I'm really blown away by what they offer. So I think it's really important to just take a step back. And actually, I was speaking to someone the other day about this, and they were telling me that they keep forgetting to write a message when they add someone on LinkedIn, for example. And that seems like a real obvious thing. And I realized I used to do that. I was just like, add, like crazy. And that actually, do you know what I mean? Whereas if you take the time and effort to go, I'm going to write a message, I think that should give you extra time and space to think, okay, why am I adding this person? And I think that should hopefully help you rethink that temptation of just going after people who are too similar to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Alvin. And I guess there definitely it's that balance, isn't it? Because you do want people who can empathise and understand what you've gone through, but equally, it's really interesting here you talk about the different circles, and maybe I never thought about that your outer circle gives you more power than your inner one, but maybe it's because your inner one is tempting to be more like you, or maybe that doesn't look like you but shares the same values as you, which is why they're your inner circle, maybe. San, your view on that, what do you think? Do you just need loads of, it's a bit like About a Boy when they say the answer is lots of people and you just need lots of different circles. So what's your experience?
Yeah, so for me, it's always been about building different circles. It's not just about people who look like me, because that's not really the idea. At least personally, that's not really the idea of building networks, because you do need diverse perspectives, and that's essentially the debate that we are having, right? Like, we can't all be thinking, talking, and speaking the same way. There has to be a difference. So, and I guess from my perspective, I haven't, like, within the ad industry, I haven't really met a lot of people who've sort of moved from other parts of the world and sort of, or I mean, I moved from Southeast Asia, and sort of I worked sort of in that part of the market. So I haven't really found too many people. Like, I see that other industries are a lot more diversely represented than the media industry. So if I were to sort of try and build networks of people who kind of look and think like me, then that would be a very, very limited circle. So I've always wanted to sort of build networks of people who are quite different and as different from me as possible. And I think everyone comes in with different ideas. So I've been working on some diversity initiatives within my company, and I've kind of reached out to a lot of you, really, as you would know, to kind of understand your experiences. And I've also reached out to people from other backgrounds and people who work in sort of different parts of the media spectrum, whether it's media agency, media owners, because everyone comes with sort of very different ideas and different, not necessarily just lived experiences, but also experiences of the work that they've done. And what has also helped me is really seeking out mentors who are from different backgrounds. So I've used networks like NABS, Media for All. I'm obviously a mentor with Media for All, but I'm also a mentee. So I work with someone who's a mentor for me, and that has been incredibly helpful. And through my Back of Future Leaders network as well, I have access to women leaders. So there's like, different perspectives from different genders, different ethnicities, different backgrounds. So that's been particularly useful to me. And I guess different people look at situations from their own lens. So what is the right way? And I know you spoke about sort of language some time back. So what is the right language? How do you approach a situation? How can you make sure that you're not coming across sort of inappropriate? Because coming from another culture, it's very easy to come across inappropriate because I might not know a lot of the vocabulary that's sort of used in the UK. So I've kind of had to learn that, and speaking with different people and building these networks has been really helpful in aiding that journey.
Thanks, San. Moses, I know you and I have spoken about this before as a thing in terms of, different groups and how you've got an interesting take on it.
Yeah, definitely. I think, especially when you think of it from an internal perspective, right? I think having people who don't necessarily come from BAME background just naturally gives everybody within the group a bit more confidence in what they're actually doing. And it also gives them more credence so that more people who don't actually come from the background can actually connect to it as well. And because it's really important when you're a member of staff and you are having, let's say, an employee resource meeting, let's say in this case a BME meeting, or maybe it be around Black History Month or whatever it is, it's not just Black representation you want to see there, because like Alvin said earlier, senior management doesn't really reflect that. So if you don't really have any presence from different parts of the business or different people of different backgrounds, then naturally you're going to feel quite isolated and not feel like an inclusive bunch within your team or within the company. So that's really important. But also it's about understanding that those people will be allies to be able to sort of support and champion any of the things that you put forward for change. And I think ultimately that's what we need. It can't just be the insular aspect of, you know, we're celebrating this within ourselves or we're talking about this within ourselves, but also knowing that people from other backgrounds will also connect with it and champion it along with us. So the more voices you have, the more people align. And then also just knowing that you have to be comfortable being trailblazers, right? We're coming from our backgrounds, we're very much, you know, we kind of have to do things for the first time, or at least push for the first in everything. So it's really important that we're comfortable in doing that, or leaning on as many people who can support you doing that, or even take on the mantle if you don't want to carry that weight.
Thanks, Moses. Vivienne, you've in a bit of my preparation for this session, I kind of reading a lot of what you've written about, and I know this is something you've talked about around allies and around how to get big groups of people to kind of, you know, have to get a support network around you. Have you got any final hints or tips for anybody on today's show that you want to just mention?
Yeah, so actually to the temptation question, I just wanted to touch on that really quickly because, and I only touched on it in terms of mentorship because as Alvin said, there's more white people than BAME people in most spaces, so you're bound to always be around people who don't necessarily look like you. But just from the mentorship point of view, the whole point of having a mentor is that you want to get advice on things that you necessarily don't know. So while it's really great to find someone who is similar to you, I mean, I actively seek out Black women in the industry because sometimes you want to just know there's this path and I just want to know someone who has experienced the same things, maybe the same microaggressions, maybe had the same obstacles. How can I get past that other people don't necessarily understand? But if the aim is to always get advice on things that you don't always know, sometimes you need to have someone from a completely different experience who can give that to you. For example, I don't necessarily like to negotiate money. And it's something that people always talk about Black women, that, oh, we don't always do that because sometimes we just want the opportunity. So not saying that a Black woman who's more senior than me hasn't gone through that, but if the statistics or whatever reports that we're seeing will then say that white men don't tend to think about that as much and they're more confident asking for the money, then I'm going to go and seek a white male mentor because I want them to teach me about something and me understand why they're so confident and I'm not. And if that's the case of maybe a white woman has another type of experience that I need to or I want to capitalize on, for the lack of a better word, then I'm going to make sure I go and actively seek out that white woman mentor so I can get that one thing that I'm looking for that I just don't understand why it's hindering me. So I think that's really important in terms of mentorship, why you should seek someone who doesn't look like you, but also why you shouldn't just have one mentor. And I always say that you don't necessarily have to have a formal mentor. In fact, I feel like Naren is the only person who, if I was to say to him, you are my mentor, he'd go, yes, I know that. But everybody else would probably go, I'm your mentor, are you sure? Because I think mentorship is just the act of giving the advice, and that can come from somebody who's on the same level as you, that can come from somebody who's more senior, and sometimes that can come from someone who's more junior, but they're 100%. Giving you the advice that you don't know. So you should just be actively seeking the advice. And if you're seeking what you don't have, it will always open you up to people who don't look like you. In terms of allies and networking with them, again, I feel like if your passion is there, the allies will come because they want to learn. So then you will naturally be in the same spaces as somebody who is willing to be open to those experiences. And sometimes I think, again, the allies who will end up being your mentor, they're the ones who want to know about these, because even though you do tend to get more of an experience or more of the benefit as a mentee, the mentors still want to talk to you for a certain reason, right? And that will be because they want to be open to that experience. if they didn't care about the experience, they probably wouldn't be engaging with you. So I think the allies would just naturally come and you'll find them.
Thanks, Vivienne. And I think that's a really, really nice thing to finish on, because I think it doesn't always have to be, as you say, you're my mentor, I'm the mentee. I think having people you can just go and have a coffee with, if it's me, probably going to go and have a beer with or a catch up and just say, what do you think about this? Or how about that? Or I'm finding this really difficult. And again, having many of those people that you can trust and lean on, some that look like you, some that's had a similar experience, others that have a completely different experience. I think that is how we all work together to grow and succeed as a team, if that makes sense. So, Vivienne, thank you very much for joining today. It's been brilliant to meet you. We've not met before. It's been really, really nice to meet you. And I guess I just want to say thank you to our MIFA role models and mentors. So thank you guys for joining too. If, as I say, if there's anything that's come up today that you think, actually, I'd, make that first step, what Alvin said, make that first step, what San said, get onto our MIFA website and click on something and just go, look, can we have a chat? Can we have a catch up? And, don't do a Liam and be, nervous talking to new people. So thank you very much, team, for joining. We're back on the 1st of September, on a Tuesday at midday again, and we'll be publishing our topic in the next week or so on that. So please look out for it. Please suggest, if you found this useful, suggest it to your groups and your circles and other people that you know that will benefit it. And one of the things I do is forward these recorded sessions, which are all on YouTube, by the way. I forward those on to people I know in HR, people I know in places where they're making decisions, and they're like, actually listen to this first before you go, this is what we're doing. So please help us share, and please help us to get the message out there, because things can go from being a very popular issue to being something that was last week's news very quickly. And we want to make sure this issue specifically keeps very high on, senior leaders' agenda, because it's not just a flash in the pan, and it's something that needs sorting. So thanks again for everybody's turning up today, and I will see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks again, guys.
Cheers.